Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. So, what are we doing today, Roy?
Today we're actually going to have kind of a little bit of a special AMA, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Ethereum and how to start your ledger journey for the Ethereum blockchain as well. So, before we actually get started, I always want to give a little bit of a general reminder about the security of your 24-word recovery phrase. Just as a reminder, never share them with anyone. Never enter them on the computer, never enter them on the smartphone or any device that can connect to the internet. And a real Ledger employee will never ask you for this either. So if someone's ever asking you for that, assume it's a scam and never share it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we'll start in a second. If you guys have any questions for Roy, so today we'll be talking about Ethereum and ERC20 tokens. That's the focus of this session. That being said, if you guys have any other questions that are not directly related to Ethereum, then you can, as usual, drop them in the chat and I'll be answering the questions in the chat. If you have any questions related to what Roy is going to talk about, you can also drop them in the chat. We'll interrupt Roy to ask the questions, okay?
Yep.
And that's it. And we hope you enjoyed this session. I'll leave the floor to Roy now and see you in the chat.
Yep, all right. And also, hi, Grant. That being said, let's actually get the show on the road. So right now you see that I've already got Ledger Live open. I actually need Ledger Live, as a matter of fact. And I'm also going to need my Ledger device. So the first thing that I want to do in order to get my Ethereum account added is actually installing the Ethereum app. Now, this is something that I can do via the My Ledger tab. So here we go. Now, my Ledger device should... I've already previously approved the access to my Ledger, so that's why I wasn't actually asked that on my Ledger device. Usually you will actually see that though. So right here I can already see the Ethereum app. So I will click on install, and it's now going to go ahead and install it on my Ledger device. You see a little loading bar, so it actually shows the progress of that app getting installed. And now you can see that it has actually installed. So for the next step, what I want to do is actually add an Ethereum account. Now there are two ways that I can go about this. So the first way is actually via the add account button right here. The second way is going to the accounts tab, and from here, click on add account. Honestly, both work in the exact same way, however. So I'll go ahead and click on add account. I'm going to select Ethereum. It's right here at the top, as it's a bigger market cap cryptocurrency. And from there, press continue. Now, here it's going to prompt my Ledger device to actually open the Ethereum app. I can confirm this by pressing both buttons. From here, Ledger Live is actually going to synchronize with the Ethereum blockchain. What it's basically doing is checking, hey, are there already any existing balances related to the recovery phrase on this device? And what do you know? It actually does see one right there. What you can also see actually is that it actually says +8 next to the Ethereum logo. Those are ERC20 tokens. So it has detected an Ethereum balance plus 8 different token balances as well. So I'm going to go ahead and actually rename this account. So I'm just going to call it Ethereum test because we're going to be using it for the tests for today. And from there, add account. Now it says the account is added. And indeed, if I go to the search bar right here and I type, there we go, ETH tests, we can find the account right here. So, great news. Now, that's step number one. For step number two, I'm going to show you how to start receiving some Ethereum. Because of course, when you add your very first Ethereum account, unlike what I just did, you're not going to have a balance yet. It's only normal. So next up, let's actually see how you can withdraw some Ethereum from an exchange. Now, in my example, I'm going to use Binance, but keep in mind, you can also use a different exchange, of course, like Coinbase or Kraken or whatever the exchange of your choice is. Now, as said, I will, however, be using Binance. So for that, we're going to go right here into Binance. So you can see I'm already logged in, and you can see I have an Ethereum balance. Now that being said, I don't have the address yet where I need to send it to. So in order to do that, I actually will go back to Ledger Live again. Now, what I need to do next is verifying my Ethereum address. And I can do that via two different ways. There's either the receive button right here or the receive button on the left side here. Now, in my case, what I tend to prefer doing is the receive button right here, because when I click that one, the right account is already pre-selected. I don't have to go look for it. So I'm going to go ahead and press continue. Now my Ethereum app was already open, and now I need to verify my Ethereum address. So I press the right button on my Ledger device to actually display my Ethereum address right there. Now this step is actually crucial. You do need to compare what is on your computer screen right now, so what I see right that side, and what is on my Ledger device. The reason for that is very simple. A computer is an online device. It connects to the internet. Someone could actually hack my computer and display something completely different that has nothing to do with my Ledger device. Now, my Ledger device, however, will always show an address that is related to my 24-word recovery phrase. So by comparing the two here, I can actually see that, well, actually, that address does match. One little important note here as well is you're going to see some capitals in this address. Now, Ethereum addresses are not exactly capital sensitive. They are in a different way, but not in order to receive funds. So whether your address is capitals or everything is lower caps, it is still the address and it would still be the same address that receives the funds. The only difference is that there's something called a checksum. Basically, if it has capitals in the address, it would also double check if it's a correct address. Not crucial, but ideally it would have that. We're going to see later on, however, an address that doesn't have that. And you also see how Ledger Live is going to react to that. Now, that being said, I could, on my Ledger device right now, go ahead and approve this address. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay on this address. And I'll show you why in just a second. So now I'm going to go ahead and copy this address. And I'm going to go back to Binance. Whoops. Nope. Hang on 1 second. Technical difficulties. Here we go. All right. So right here, I'm back in my Binance account. And now I want to send that Ethereum from Binance to that address that I just copied. In order to do that, I need to click on the Withdraw tab. Take just a moment. Then I'll need to select which cryptocurrency I want to withdraw. So of course, that was Ethereum. Then I need to enter the address. So here, I'll paste the address. And again, I'll be able to compare what's on my computer screen right there versus what's displayed on my Ledger device. So by just taking a quick look, I can see that, again, it does actually match. Now, that being said, we're not quite done yet, and the next step is quite crucial here. I need to select the network. So I would click right here, and right off the bat, what you're going to notice is the network for Ethereum ERC20 is way more expensive than the other options. That being said, if I actually want to receive that Ethereum in my Ethereum account, I do need to choose that more expensive option. Unfortunately, indeed, Ethereum is a bit pricier when it comes down to the transaction fee. And that mostly has to do with the amount of network congestion on this blockchain. We'll actually take a little bit of a closer look at how the transaction fee is calculated as well later on. But for now, I do right here need to select the Ethereum ERC20 option. If I choose a different option, well, don't worry, I wouldn't have lost my funds, but they are on a different blockchain, basically. So I'm choosing the Ethereum option right here. I'm going to go ahead and withdraw all of it. Now, there is a network fee being imposed right there. That's normal, and that does get deducted. Now, from here, I need to click on Withdraw. And for the next step, normally I would not recommend actually showing this on camera, but yeah, I do need to actually put a 2FA code here. So normally, don't show that to anyone, but for this case, it is okay. 2987 and 3. All right. And this Ethereum is now actually being withdrawn from Binance to my Ledger address. So it also says that the withdrawal request is now submitted. It may still take some time, of course, for it to show up in Ledger Live because transactions can still take a little bit of time. Now at this point, I also don't need that address displayed on my Ledger device anymore, so I can actually go ahead and approve it now.
Okay, so what's next now?
So next up, now we have that Ethereum, we can also actually start using that Ethereum.
How long will the transaction take to go to my account?
So that really depends, to be honest. The thing that depends mostly on, honestly, is network congestion and the fees that you have entered. Now, in this case, I didn't have the choice for the fees. That's because Binance here was the entity that would create this transaction, not me personally.
Okay. Does Ledger take any cut of that transaction fees that you paid?
Absolutely not, no. Ledger does not take any kind of fee related to your transactions, no.
Okay.
And equally, this withdrawal, Binance might, but Ledger definitely does not.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and click on Done here. I'm just going to click on Synchronize. It lets Ledger Live resynchronize again. No, the Ethereum has not been received yet. To be expected, but I was just curious to see if it would be the case anyway. Now, of course, we do already have some Ethereum, so we can also already start sending that Ethereum. So in order to do that, you can click on Send right here or Send right here. Just like with Receive, if you click Send here, it's going to pre-fill the correct account. Also, I can see the Ethereum just arrived, by the way, in the background.
Nice.
Now, that being said, I actually do need to quickly grab an Ethereum address to send it to. So for that, I am actually going to go back to my Binance account. And that's just to really quickly grab an Ethereum address. So you would go to deposits. And here I would choose ETH or that.
So you're in the process of sending coins back to your account on Binance, correct?
That would be the case if I would proceed with this, exactly. Okay. So here we have an address, and what I did want to show you is this address does not have any capitals. Again, that's not a problem. But you will see Ledger Live actually giving you a bit of a warning. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that address. And Ledger Live here is going to say auto verification not available. Carefully verify the address. Now, this is not something where you're completely blocked and stopped from actually sending to that address. I can still click on continue. However, since it doesn't have any capitals in the address, no checksum is being performed. So that's that auto verification that Ledger Live is talking about. That being said, this address with or without capitals, the funds still end up going to the same entity. Keep in mind, though, that is for Ethereum. For other blockchains, they might be capital sensitive. So right now, I'm going to press continue. I need to choose the amount that I like to send. So let's say 0.001 Ethereum. I definitely do have enough funds. And I might need to do it again because the transaction just came in right after that. So let's try that again. Continue. And now let's see 0.001. Yes, and now it does work.
Okay.
So what you can see right here, there's 3 different tiers of sending Ethereum transactions, and they each have their own price attached to it. So this is where we're going to talk a little bit about the Ethereum transaction fee system. So Ethereum transaction fees basically depend on 2 separate parts. The first part, and probably the most impactful part, might be the network congestion. The more people that are currently trying to broadcast transactions on Ethereum, the more your fees are going to be increased as well. Basically, what you're going to get is kind of a competition where people keep trying to outbid each other with the fees, saying, no, do my transaction first. I'm giving you this much. No, I give even more. Do my transaction first, etc., etc., etc. That's one part of the story. The other part of the story is the complexity of your transaction. Now, Ethereum is really well known for having smart contracts. We're going to talk a little bit about smart contracts later on as well, but essentially a program that might run. Now, that smart contracts can be more or less complex. If we're looking at a usually less complex form of a smart contract, we could look at ERC20 tokens. Usually, they will add a little bit more to your transaction fee than a normal Ethereum transaction, because ERC20 tokens do use a smart contract, and if you're just sending Ethereum, you're not using a smart contract. So your fee will be a bit higher. However, if you're using a complex smart contract, let's say that of a decentralized exchange, that's going to be way higher than a transaction of that ERC20 token. So, in short, two parts that will affect how much you're paying in transaction fees. One end is the network congestion at this moment, and the second part is the complexity of the smart contract if you're using it. That being said, another thing that I'd like to recommend is to usually try to avoid the slow option. If you're using the slow option and Ethereum is currently seeing a bit of a spike in network congestion, your transaction could potentially get stuck. So usually I would recommend avoiding the slow option as a result for that. Now, that being said, I will go ahead and press continue. And I am not, by the way, actually going to finalize this transaction, so you will see me reject it on my ledger device in just a moment. But it's just to show you how this whole process basically goes. So here I'll get a recap of where I'm sending to, from which account, the amount I'm sending, and the fees that I'm sending as well, or the fees that I'm using. Now, Ledger Live does usually warn you as well if the network fees are about 10% of that transaction. But hey, if you want, you can still actually go ahead and proceed with that transaction. Now, it also actually gives me the total. And after that, I can go ahead and press continue. Now, at this point, my Ledger device will actually show me review transaction. It will tell me the amount that I'm trying to send, the address that I'm sending to. This again, I can compare with what's on my screen. As a matter of fact, crucial, because just like with verifying your receiving address, my computer can be compromised. However, the real requests for a signature is shown right here. So the real request sent to my Ledger device for signature is for this particular address and for that particular amount. So again, always compare the two. Now I can see the maximum amount of fees that I will be paying as well. And then I could accept and send. But as previously said, I will actually reject this transaction because unfortunately fees on Ethereum are a little bit pricey. Yep. And I prefer to still keep that amount for now. So I will reject that. Ledger Live will also indicate that. But if I actually accepted it, that transaction would have been broadcasted to the Ethereum blockchain and be on its merry way from there.
So you didn't pay any fees at this point, right? By rejecting the transaction, no fees were consumed?
Correct. If I reject a transaction, it doesn't get broadcasted on the blockchain and it will pay no fees for that. That is correct. All right. Now, I mentioned that we were going to very briefly talk about smart contracts as well. So one of the revolutions, honestly, that Ethereum brought back in the day was smart contracts. Ethereum launched, if my memory serves me well, July 2015. And it was actually the first blockchain that started bringing smart contracts to the table. Now, what are smart contracts? They are essentially programs that you can upload onto the blockchain. This would allow you to automate certain actions on the blockchain, which is pretty great. For example, decentralized exchanges, they use these smart contracts to automatically take one of your token and give you another back if you're using them. Now, these smart contracts are hosted on the blockchain for everyone to see. You can actually yourself check the functions of that smart contract. Now, granted, I personally am not of a technical level where I can understand all the full details of the code, but someone with that expertise would be able to do so. And that is why we consider this trustless. You can actually go ahead and check what a smart contract does by just reading its code. Pretty sweet. And yes, these programs are on the blockchain. As a matter of fact, they're on what we call a contract address. This looks like a normal Ethereum address, but if you look it up, for example, on Etherscan, you would be able to see what that contract belongs to, for example, for a certain token.
Okay, so smart contracts, just like users, have their own address, right?
Yep, correct. Okay. Exactly.
But the difference is they cannot start a transaction by themselves. They have to be triggered by a user.
Yes, correct. It's basically, if a certain condition is met, a smart contract will perform that action.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Like a vending machine.
Kind of, in a way. Yeah. I like that analogy, actually. Very nice. All right, cool. Now, we just mentioned tokens. So yes, ERC20 tokens. Ethereum is very, very well known for kind of being an ecosystem in a single blockchain, because man, there are thousands upon thousands of different ERC20 tokens. Now, a lot of ERC20 tokens are supported in Ledger Live. What that means, if I actually scroll down, you'll see a little tokens tab right here. If I click on show all, you're going to see even more of them. Now, Ledger Live supports a pretty large amount of ERC20 tokens, but not all. Now, you might be thinking, all right, well, what do you mean, not all? Basically, with some ERC20 tokens, if you send them to your Ledger's Ethereum address, they might not show up. Normally, what you would do with an ERC20 token, if you want to manage it in Ledger Live, is you would actually send it to your Ledger's Ethereum address, and it should start popping up. For example, if I send some tether to my Ethereum address, use the right network, very important, then it would just show up just like this tether right here. Mm-hmm. Now, if the token is unsupported, however, you would not start seeing it. And you might be kind of worried, thinking, oh shoot, did I not receive it? Did something go wrong? Mm-hmm. Did I get scammed or something? So in that case, don't worry. So long as you send it to the correct address, nothing is lost. As a matter of fact, there's still a way that you can see it within Ledger Live itself. And that is by going to the Discover section right here. And in the search bar, you would type Zerion. Now, Zerion is a dApp that would actually allow you to take a closer look at your entire Ethereum portfolio. Now, I'm currently on a Binance Smart Chain account. Let's change that. Ethereum, and that's the one we're using. So if I scroll down, under Assets, I'll see all the different tokens that I actually have. If a token wasn't supported in Ledger Live, I should still be able to see it here.
I see.
Now, on top, we currently can't see it. I'm just going to have to, for an instant, make the screen bigger, because Zerion also has a Send tab right here. So yes, you can actually use this to also, whoops, wrong blockchain. Let's go to Ethereum. And I think I still have that in, yes, here we go.
Nice.
And here I could still choose any token. So don't worry, you can still manage that token in Ledger Live in that case too. Just a little bit of a workaround is all.
Okay, that's great.
Now let me go ahead and pop this back. I think that should be okay. All right, cool. So.
Okay, so if you don't see your tokens, but you send to the right address, the transaction is confirmed on the blockchain, but they don't show in Ledger Live, it might be because Ledger Live doesn't support that token. Go to Zerion.
Yep.
And check if you can see it via Zerion, right? That should be the first thing you do.
Yes, exactly. Now, if you even don't see it there, it could potentially be that you might have used a wrong network.
Okay, different issue here.
Yeah, that would be another potential issue. Mm-hmm. But most likely it would indeed be an unsupported token, which you should be able to see in Zerion.
Okay, that's a good tip, yeah. And you can do the same thing for other blockchains as well, not just Ethereum.
Yes, correct. As a matter of fact, if I click here on Ethereum, I can change it to a different network as well. As a matter of fact, I can even do all networks. And then I'll see every single asset that I have on that address for the supported tokens in Zerion, or supported blockchains, I should say.
And so why is Zerion showing more assets than Ledger Live exactly?
Excellent question, to be honest. I'm not entirely sure, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you.
Okay, maybe because the EVM focus, so they have more time, more engineering bandwidth to actually do more integrations, right?
Potentially just a different API that is being used. Honestly, that I couldn't answer. But indeed, they would be pulling their data in a different way than us.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Now, right now we know how to receive ERC20 tokens. You basically just send it to your Ethereum address. We also know that if a token isn't supported in Ledger Live, well, you can always check Zerion. Now, I mentioned Ethereum is basically a huge ecosystem with all of these different tokens, thousands upon thousands of different ones. And you might at some point be thinking, you know what? I have token A, but actually, I want to have token B. In this case, you can use what we call decentralized exchanges. And in Ledger Live, in the Discover section, we do actually have 2 different decentralized exchanges available. One of them is Paraswap, and the other is 1inch. So if I type here Paraswap, you're going to see it right there, and equally 1inch right here. Now I believe 1inch was currently under maintenance, so I'm going to go ahead and actually use Paraswap instead. Now in this case, I will actually be performing a swap, but I'm not going to do it on Ethereum because Ethereum is a little bit pricey, and a decentralized exchange is definitely one of the more complex smart contracts. So it might actually cost a bit more as well. So instead, I'm going to be using Polygon, but the way it works is going to be 100% the same whether I'm using Ethereum or I'm using Polygon. It actually works in the same manner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap a little bit of Tether and change that into Polygon. Now, what you're going to see already is that the first action that I actually need to take is not swapping. It's unlocking USDT. Now, this is what we call an approval. And approvals are something to be a bit careful with. Now, what an approval actually is giving a certain address or contract the access to your token. Now, in this case, if I'm using the legitimate version of Paraswap, that's not a problem. However, if I accidentally give someone access to my tokens that should never have access to it, they can quite frankly just take it. So always be a little bit careful with these approvals. If you provide an approval and afterwards you think, shoot, wait, I shouldn't have done that, go to revoke.cash. You can actually cancel approvals right there.
There is a question related by Rakesh B here in the chat asking, like, if we buy any new tokens on Ethereum, ERC20 tokens, is there any possibility that they can take over our wallet if it's written into the smart contract?
So the reception of it should not be a problem. However, if you start sending it, it does depend. So what I would always recommend, if you receive some kind of new token and you're not sure about that one, just don't touch it. The only thing I would recommend you to do in that case, and as a matter of fact, I can show you that in just a second. So I'll go to my account. I'm just going to pretend that one of the tokens that I received was not a legitimate one. So this is actually an excellent question, and this absolutely happens as well. We mostly see it with NFTs nowadays too, but we'll get more into that later. So let's say that this Pepe token, which is, by the way, legitimate, but let's say this was a brand new token, someone tried to scam me with it, send it to me in hopes that I interact with it. What I can just do is right-click, hide token, and just like that, poof, it's gone.
Okay.
So if I ever receive any kind of token that's, does not seem very kosher, I can still actually hide it, and it should still be okay from there.
So to clarify what you just did, the token is still in your account, but it's just invisible in Ledger Live, correct? But is it safe to keep the token in your account?
Yes, so the token just being there, that's not a problem. So long as you just don't interact with it, you're okay.
And interacting, you mean like sending?
Exactly. So on a blockchain level, so we are talking about sending, trying to swap on a decentralized exchange, anything like that. Yeah.
Okay. And so we have a question from Vishweshar. Sorry if I butcher your name. talking about NFTs, but we will talk about NFTs in a few minutes, right?
We are actually going to get into that just after the swap. So we'll be with that in just a moment.
Okay. Same question from Mihab as well, asking about NFTs. So if you guys can stick around for 5 to 10 more minutes, we will get to NFTs. It's just the next section into the stream.
Yes, exactly. We'll get into that. No worries. So for now, I'm going to go back to Discover. I'm going to go back to Paraswap. And I'm actually going to go ahead and perform a swap on Polygon. So, I love how, by the way, it says you will unlock USDT. Anyway, they are correct. I will unlock USDT indeed. So, first thing, I'm going to click on Unlock USDT. And so here I can do either temporary or permanently. Normally, I would actually recommend using temporary, and I'm going to do that this time. So, I'm going to click on Unlock. There will be fees associated to that transaction as well. And just like what we said previously, these fees are network fees, nothing that we at Ledger actually charge.
So you pay the network for processing that transaction, right?
Exactly, yep.
And unlock, what do you mean exactly by that?
So unlock is the approval that we were talking about earlier.
Okay,
yep.
Gotcha. So you give Paraswap
access to my USDT in this case.
Just Paraswap?
Yes, exactly, just their contract. So right now I press continue. I get a little bit of an overview. You'll see amount says 0. Because I'm not sending anything, I am only approving that token. So pressing continue. Now, I think, do I have the Polygon app? I don't think I do.
I think it should automatically install.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was hoping for. And also the Paraswap app, indeed. All right, so now it's asking me to open the Paraswap app. I confirm that with both buttons. And yes, we do have a separate app for Paraswap because it uses something called clear signing. It actually shows me the type of transaction is an approval. So I actually know what I'm doing right now. It's also telling me it's just for 1 USDT. Now, if I did this permanent option instead of just unlocking, it would have said unlimited USDT here. But I didn't, so it's only 1 USDT.
Okay.
Now this is the contract that I'm engaging with, and you can see that in Ledger Live as well. Network Polygon, correct. Now, of course, if I was using Ethereum, here it would have said Ethereum. And the fees, here it's in Matic. If it was for the Ethereum blockchain, that would have been in ETH instead.
Same UX, but the fees are substantially cheaper on Matic. That's what we're doing it here.
Exactly, yes. Because on Ethereum, this would easily have costed $10 worth.
Oosh, okay.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit more steep. But then again, there's so much that you can do on Ethereum as well.
For sure.
But then again, on Polygon too, so I can't really make too much of an argument there.
It's unlocked, so now Paraswap has access to your $1.
Yep.
1 USDT.
Yep, that is correct. And now here it actually presents the details of that swap that I want to make.
Okay.
Now, one thing that is important to mention, sometimes if you're trying to perform a swap and it fails, you may need to increase what we call your slippage tolerance. This is basically you saying, I'm okay with receiving 0.5% more or less than the agreed amount mentioned right here.
Okay.
And in some cases, you may need to increase it because actually your swap is performing, is having an impact on the price. Now, in the case of USDT, that shouldn't be a problem, so I'll confirm it. Here, I again get a little bit of an overview. And once I press continue, it should be opening the Paraswap app again. Yep, so both buttons. And here you can see Paraswap, swap, send 1 USDT, receive minimum 1.23 Matic. So this is what we call clear signing. I can see exactly the amount that I am sending and the amount that I would be receiving at a minimum. So that's what we call clear signing. Network Polygon, max fees are mentioned here too. And from here, accept and send. One thing about the max fees, you'll notice that for the approval, it was about 0.01 Polygon. You'll see that for this swap, it's 0.07. That's where that smart contract complexity comes in. So this is a much more complicated transaction, and that's why that fee is so much higher here. Now that being said, I'm going to accept and send. And now my swap is actually going to be performed. Once that transaction is confirmed, I will immediately no longer have my USDT, and I would immediately have my Paraswap. Now this transaction actually failed. Now you might be like, ooh, okay, that's a problem. Well, actually, this means that I still have my 1 USDT. Mm-hmm. The only thing I would have lost here is my transaction fee. So that's something beautiful about using decentralized exchanges. You're never left empty-handed. Mm-hmm. Either you still have your old funds, or you're going to already have your new funds. It just depends on whether the smart contract finished or not. That's really it. Now, I'm just going to try one more time, and I will increase the slippage to, wow, that's excessive. Let's make that 1.5%. Already excessive, but it should work from there. Yes, I understand. Confirm. So I'll just do it one more time. And I will go through the swap a little bit quicker this time too. Yeah, that all looks good. All right, and now let's see if it does go through. If not, we'll just consider it, well, it's not working this time, but normally it should. Let's just see what happens here though. And again, it does not. Wow, we're having a wonderful demo effect today.
Yeah. But if it worked, what would have happened at this point? Like, I would get like 1 USDT in my wallet. No, 1.2 Matic. Right?
Yes, exactly. So the USDT would have been taken. So I would no longer have 8 USDT. Instead, I would have had 7 at that point, and I would have received 1.2 Matic. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're live, so this kind of stuff happens.
it can happen, unfortunately. So, well, normally it works, I promise.
And so what's the difference between swapping via Paraswap and swapping via the swap feature here? Is there any difference?
There is. So this right here is by a centralized service using the swap feature there. Mm-hmm. Using Paraswap or 1 inch under the Discover section is decentralized. Now, what that means is you're not relying on a person or company or entity with a decentralized exchange. So with something like Paraswap, you're ultimately just relying on contracts, on programs that execute code automatically. And again, you, as an end user, can verify that code yourself as well. What would be the reason that the transaction fails? So it can be one of few things. It could be that I waited too long with confirming my transaction and that the rate would have changed in the meantime. Mm-hmm. It could also mean that the amount of slippage that I had entered wasn't enough. So it can be one of few reasons, actually.
Yeah, I think by just increasing the amount of USDT that we swap, we might have been able to complete the transaction. Maybe 1 USDT was too low, given the liquidity on the app, things like that. So this transaction definitely should have, succeeded, but this time we went too cheap, I think.
Yeah, my bad. All right. That being said, let's go to the next part. So we talked about ERC20 tokens. We talked about using a decentralized exchange for those ERC20 tokens. Next up, let's talk about yet a different way to use smart contracts, namely in the form of NFTs. So NFT stands for non-fungible token, and basically, in short, what it means is this one token is not the same as this one token. Now, for example, if I have 1 Tether or 1 Tether, it doesn't really matter. There's no differentiating features between those 2 tokens. One is spendable in the exact same way as the other. With NFTs, that's not the case. NFTs actually are going to have distinct features. So for example, they might have different characteristics. In the case of art NFTs, they might look different. There is at least a way to discern between the 2 tokens, and they may also not be spendable in the same way. Now, that being said, you can actually manage Ethereum and Polygon-based NFTs directly in Ledger Live. Now, to see a little bit about how that looks, I'm going to go back to my ETH test account because it does actually already have some NFTs. So here we are, and right here you can see there's a tab for non-fungible token collection. You can see there are two different ones, and you can also see there's a receive NFT tab here. Now, this one ultimately actually does the same thing as the add token option right here, which is, if I click on it, press continue, I'm actually just verifying my Ethereum address.
Okay, because everything goes into the same account, tokens, NFTs,
exactly.
ETH, everything.
Yes. So whether you're trying to receive an ERC20 token or you're trying to receive an NFT on Ethereum, with this, you're basically just verifying your receiving address for Ethereum because that's where your token or your NFT needs to go. Yep. Now, in this case, I'll just go ahead and just reject it because I don't actually need to use it currently. And another thing that I want to show you right now is the gallery. So right now, I only have one NFT of each, so I wouldn't see the list for each collection. But what I can still do here is click on a particular NFT, and I can see all the different characteristics. You can also see the token address, which is just like an ERC20 token or any smart contract, the contract address that is deployed on the blockchain, and it's unique for that particular NFT collection. Now, you also have a send option right here. Now with this send option, I can choose which NFT I'd like to send. Now I should still, yes, have the address in my clipboard. Nice. So from here, I would press continue. I would choose the fees, and you can immediately see $18-ish worth of fees.
Yeah, so why is it more expensive than sending ETH, for example?
Because this NFT is using a smart contract and probably quite a complicated smart contract at that. On top, currently the Ethereum blockchain is a little bit more congested as well. So that's another part of that story.
So the more complicated, complex the transaction, the higher the fees generally, right?
Yes, exactly. Now, I am also not actually going to confirm this transaction. But what I will do is actually press continue right now and at least show you what it's going to look like on my Ledger device. So here I got a little bit of recap and then I press continue. Now here I actually have a little bit of an overview on my, Ledger Live screen right here. And on my Ledger device, I can now see review transaction. NFT transfer. So it detects exactly what this is. This, again, is clear signing. I can see which address it's going to go to. So that's the address that I pasted in. I can see the name of the collection, which is inspired by Ledger. I can also see the NFT address. So this, again, is the contract address for this NFT's smart contract. This is always going to be unique. If this matches, that means it must be the right one. The NFT ID, the amounts that I'm sending, because for some NFTs there might be more than one, the amount of fees that I would be paying, and if I press both buttons right now, that NFT would actually be on its way. I'm not going to do that because this will be quite pricey. Instead, I reject the transaction. But normally, the moment that I would have approved it, that NFT would have been on its way to the address that I was trying to send it to. Now here I rejected it because the fees are quite steep, and actually I wanted to keep that NFT anyway. Now, this was clear signing. If you're using anything outside of Ledger Live, you would be blind signing. Blind signing does actually contain some risks as well, because basically you wouldn't see which smart contracts on your Ledger device. That's why we do actually recommend, if you want to send an NFT to someone else, to use it in Ledger Live directly so that you can actually see all the details. It is ultimately more secure.
Okay, very good. We had questions about scam NFTs. So do you have like additional tips or like what a scam NFT looks like and how to protect yourself?
Yeah, they are very, very prevalent, especially on cheaper blockchains. On Ethereum, you're not going to see them as much because whoever creates these scam NFTs actually needs to pay transaction fees for it. On Ethereum, that's not very cheap.
Yeah.
But on Polygon, however, As a matter of fact, you guys are going to be in for a ride. Yes. I'm going to go to my Polygon account, and you'll see quite a lot of them. And you might be thinking, oh, wow, 5 of them. Actually, wait, there's more. Oh, but wait, there's even more. And actually, guess what? There is even more. And we can honestly do this for a few minutes still. Yeah. So all of these are all scam NFTs. Now, the thing is, your address is public information on a blockchain. Anyone can just pick your address up. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I received this NFT. I want nothing to do with it. Can I burn it? Can I send it somewhere else? I would really not recommend doing that.
Okay, so why not? Because that was one of the questions from me, I think.
And it's an excellent question as well. So the reason why I would not recommend it is because the moment you start sending that NFT, you are interacting with its smart contract. If that smart contract has some kind of malicious code for it, they might be able to drain certain tokens or cryptocurrencies from you. So what I would really recommend doing instead is right-clicking it, hide NFT collection, and poof. This does not actually interact with the smart contract. Because remember, if you want to interact with that smart contract, I need to use my Ledger device. I didn't use it right now. I only use Ledger Live. So this is actually the best way of getting rid, in brackets, of these NFTs. They're actually still there, but at least you're no longer going to see them in Ledger Live. But yeah, do be wary of these kind of NFTs. Because this, for example, if I click on it, most likely in its description, there's going to be some kind of link to a scam website. Don't interact with that. As a matter of fact, we're checking, and yeah, what do you know? There it is. Don't go to that website, everyone. Please do not. That is a scam website that's probably going to ask you to enter your 24 words. And perfect moment for just a little refresher there. Never, ever, ever share your 24 words. It should never be given to someone else. It should never be entered on a computer, never on a website on top. That's even worse. Never on a smartphone. And if anyone ever asks for your 24 words, they are most likely a scammer. Any real Ledger employee will never ask you for your 24 words.
Okay, that makes sense. So hide the tokens, don't try to move them. Don't follow those links, and no one will send you money for free.
Typically. Yeah, no one will send you money for free, especially just $2,000 for no good reason. Okay. Yeah, that even in crypto, that doesn't happen.
Okay, great. So we've got 15 minutes left, more or less. Is there anything else we haven't covered yet?
There is one thing.
Yes, staking, I think.
Staking Ethereum. And for that, actually, I'm going to go ahead and leave the floor to you.
All right, okay. So we're going to switch a little bit, guys, and I will be covering staking real quick. I'm going to use the mouse here. Okay, so staking, just brief overview of what staking is. Staking is a way for you to help the network produce blocks, okay? So on Ethereum, only selected participants on the Ethereum network can produce new blocks, and those are called validators. And there must be a mechanism to make sure that validators do their job correctly, right? Because if they don't, if there is no mechanism, validators could do whatever they want, they could create fake transactions and so on. So instead, validators have to stake tokens. In the case where they would do something malicious, then their stake will be burned. That's the basic mechanism. So on Ethereum specifically, right, staking, if you want to become a validator, you have to stake at least 32 ETH. So 32 ETH is one validator, but 32 ETH is actually a lot of money. Not everybody has 32 ETH. So there are alternatives if you don't have 32 ETH to still stake on Ethereum your ETH without investing that much money. So I will show you like some of the options that we have. So first of all, you can go into your Ethereum account here and then click on stake. And here you've got 3 different options. And I'll just be presenting those 3 different options, but there is more as well in the Discover section if you're curious. One called Stater, for example. But for now, we'll be talking just about Kylin and Lido. Okay, those are the most popular in Ledger Live at least. So the first one is called Kylin dedicated staking, sometimes also called solo staking, although that word is a bit misleading. But this one is basically requiring 32 ETH for you to stake. So if you have that, you can bundle that 32 ETH into a transaction. Kylin will take possession of that ETH. They will send you, just to be clear, the private keys will stay in your wallet. Just to be very technical, the two sets of private keys will be created. One set will be withdrawal keys that will stay within your device. And your voting keys will be given to Kylin, and Kylin will be using those voting keys to create block on your behalf. And then you will be able to get staking reward. So that's dedicated staking. It takes 32 ETH. Not everybody can do it, but it's an option. So if you want to use it, then you can click here, select solo staking, select how many ETH you want to stake. So it has to be 32, 64, any multiple of 32, and go through that step.
So if I understood this correctly, that means you're providing the Ethereum and they're providing the infrastructure to actually validate.
Yeah, correct. Because being a validator is actually pretty difficult. You have to run computers. There is a bunch of OPSEC that you need as a validator and computing power you need to have. And so Kylin is taking care of that aspect. But the private keys that will allow you to withdraw your staking rewards and to stop staking if you want to, those will stay within your ledger device, which is the most important, if that makes sense. Cool. So that's one option. Again, that's 32 ETH. It's a lot of money. But instead, if you don't have 32 ETH, you've got two more options. One is pooled staking. This one requires a minimum of 0.05 ETH, I think, which is much, much lower. I think it's something like 30 to 40 bucks-ish. So basically, you would go into the pool staking option here. You enter how many ETH you want to stake, for example, 1 ETH, and then you complete the stake flow here. There will be a transaction you have to validate on your ledger device, of course. And once you're done, then this reward tab here will become active, and you'll be able to see the staking amount, like the amount you're staking, the rewards as well, and all the information related to your stake. The rewards will not appear in your Ethereum account because LedgerLive cannot detect those rewards yet, but they will be tracked within Kylin, and they will be accumulating into your ledger device, into your Ethereum account, secured by your ledger device. Just so you know as well, when you pool stake, Kylin will actually represent your share of the pool. So let's say, for example, you stake 1 ETH. Kylin will mint 1 PS ETH, which is a representation of that staked ETH. And that PS ETH will actually appear in your Ethereum account as just another token. But that token will stay in your account. It's not a liquid token. It's a soul-bound token, so it stays in your account. And you cannot transfer it to someone else. The only way you can redeem that token is via the Kylin dashboard, where you will unstake basically and redeem that token for your ETH, your staked ETH, plus the rewards. So that's Kylin staking and pool staking. The other option, which is Lido, this one is the most famous, I think. Lido is a bit like Kylin pool staking, where you would go into, so there is many ways to access Lido in LedgerLive, but I showed you via your Ethereum account, but you can also go into the Lido app here. It's the same UX pretty much. You would stake any amount, and I think the minimum is even lower than Kylin pool staking. It's probably like 0.01 ETH, like it's very, very low. You tell the app how much ETH you want to stake, and they will swap your 1 ETH for 1 STETH. And STETH is a fully liquid token that will sit in your wallet, just like this, right? So STETH will appear in your wallet just like that. And every single day, that token will increment its balance by a little bit. And that little bit represents your staking rewards, okay? So the balance here, the number of staked ETH, STETH in your wallet will go up a little bit every single day to represent the staking rewards. So it's a way of staking that relies on a third party, in this case Lido, because you have to trust Lido to be responsible with the ETH that you're giving them, right, to stake on your behalf. But it's cool because STETH is fully liquid, so you can move it to a different wallet. You can reinvest it into DeFi. You can do a lot of different things with STETH. And if you want to stop staking with Lido, if you're tired of having STETH in your account, what you can do is you can just swap STETH back for regular ETH, just like we did in pair swap earlier, right? You can just create a transaction to swap from STETH back to ETH, and it's equivalent to unstaking. There's another way to do it via the Lido app, but it's a little more complicated. We won't go into this, although we have documentation on the Help Center that explain both ways. If you want to unstake via the Lido app, or if you want to unstake, quote unquote, via pair swap by swapping your ETH to STETH. So those are the most popular options in Ledger Live. That being said, there are other staking providers for ETH. One of them would be Stater, which is also somewhere.
It at the top.
It's at the top. Yeah, you're right. So Stater Labs, Ethereum staking. So here as well, same thing. It's a liquid staking protocol. So you give them your ETH, they will give you a token that represents the staked ETH in return, and the rewards will be accruing. So the rewards mechanism for Stater is a little different, but you will be able to track your staking rewards here within the app as well. So yeah, so I think those are the different options. And Roy, I'll give you back the mic, unless...
Actually, that is kind of all that we had for today.
Yep.
So I would... let's switcheroo this. Hi, everyone. And I'm taking your chair, aren't I? Yep. There we go. Sorry, a little small setup. All right, so that is actually it for today. If there are any questions, please do drop them in the chats. So I hope this was useful for helping to understand Ethereum perhaps a little bit better and all the different things that you can do with it. And also actually within Ledger Live specifically as well. So just as a recap, you can not only send and receive Ethereum once you've added the account, you can also manage ERC20 tokens. You can swap tokens for other tokens within the Discover section of Ledger Live via Paraswap and 1inch. You can also manage NFTs, so that's directly in your Ethereum account. And you can also actually enjoy staking Ethereum via the Discover section again.
And we've got a question from Doris regarding Lido, asking does it cost more than 30 euros to transfer Lido, no matter how many STETH token you've got?
So that probably depends on network congestion. It may be quite costly. So what I would actually recommend, if you want to do that, is wait till the weekend. You might be like, why? What does that have to do with it? Ethereum congestion tends to be a bit lower in the weekend. Now, it's not a guarantee. You might be unlucky and still face a very busy weekend, but usually it is on the quieter side in the weekend, and therefore you would have some lower fees.
Okay, makes sense. So weekends, transactions are cheaper, so wait for that.
Most often, it's not a guarantee, but a little tip.
And you can track transaction cost, like congestion and gas price on etherscan.io.
Yes, actually, maybe we can quickly show that. So let me go ahead and go to this right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to Etherscan. Here we go. And then I believe it was in resources?
More. It's in the More tab.
Gas tracker.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's this right here. And then on this heat map, you can basically see how congested it was at that point. And what you can see here is that Saturday, well, except for this little part here, and Sunday are the lighter days in this heat map. So it's not a guarantee, but it does tend to help a lot.
Yeah. So Phoenix is saying the Ethereum fees are too high in the bull run to transfer your ERC20 tokens. You will need to pay high fees for that and cash out. And it's true, Ethereum is extremely expensive, but you can also store your ERC20 tokens on different chains, right? Yeah,
exactly. So you could always debate to move your ERC20 tokens when the fees are low, with a bridge, for example, to another blockchain. You can think of Polygon, you can think of Arbitrum, etc. And then still be able to enjoy lower fees on those blockchains.
Yeah, Phoenix, if you don't like Ethereum, that's fine. You've got ERC20 tokens, just send them directly to a different network that supports ERC20 tokens. For example, you've got, pick your blockchain. You've got Base, you've got Binance Smart Chain, you've got Arbitrum, you've got Optimism. There is a lot of different options, right?
Yeah, and still more coming each day. So yeah,
exactly. Cool. I think that pretty much wraps it up, and we're on time.
Yeah, I would say so.
So,
cool.
Roy, thank you. Do you have any last messages or word of wisdom for? Oh yeah, and Phoenix is asking, can you answer my first question about the Ledger Live app? And I think Ledger app will interact directly with any exchange even without the hardware wallet. I think there is some misconception of what Ledger Live is, really.
I'm not sure I fully understand the question, I'm afraid.
So, Phoenix, Ledger Live does not interact with exchanges. Your Ledger device cannot connect to an exchange directly. Hopefully that answers the question. Ledger Live has services which you can interact with your wallet, with your Ledger device, but you will always have to confirm any transaction that you do through those services with the Ledger device because the private keys are within the Ledger device. But yeah, there is no way to connect your Ledger Live or your Ledger device to a centralized exchange like Binance or Coinbase or any services like that, if that makes sense. They're like different entities, really. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that definitely answers that. Thanks,
okay.
Phoenix.
Great. I think that's it.
All right. In that case, I would say thank you all for joining. Just as a general reminder, always keep your 24 words secure. I know that's the third time I'm saying it already, but really something that we cannot understate. Just make sure that you keep your 24 words secure offline. Never, ever enter them on a computer, smartphone, and never share them with anyone. That being said, thank you all for joining, everyone, and, wishing you an excellent rest of the day.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.